A, 14A.
Okay, we'll call the meeting to order. Welcome to the February 5th meeting of the Sayreville Board of Education. The public notice will be read at the start of the open public session at 7:30. Please rise for the pledge to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Ms. Hill, roll call, please.
Mr. Balco?
Here.
Mrs. Bacco?
Here.
Mrs. Bloom?
Here.
Mr. Callahan? Mr. Esposito?
Here.
Mrs. Kenny?
Here.
Ms. Rubio?
Here.
Mr. Walsh? Mr. Syak?
Here. Can I have a motion to retire into executive session, please?
So moved.
By Mrs. Bloom. I have a second by Mrs. Rubio. Would you read the resolution?
Whereas Section 8 of the Open Public Meetings Act, Chapter 231, Public Law 1975, permits the exclusion of the public from a meeting in certain circumstances. And whereas this public body is of the opinion that such circumstances presently exist. Now therefore be it resolved by the Board of Education of the Borough of Sayreville, County of Middlesex, State of New Jersey, as follows. The public shall be excluded from discussion of and action upon the hereinafter specified subject matters. The general nature of the subject matter to be discussed is as follows. Personnel, including but not limited to agenda items, negotiations for the SEA, and attorney-client privilege for LC versus the Board of Education. It is anticipated at this time that the above stated subject matter shall be made public at such time as the need for non-disclosure no longer exists. This resolution shall take effect immediately. Mr. Balco?
Yes.
Mrs. Bacco?
Yes.
Mrs. Bloom?
Yes.
Mr. Esposito?
Yes.
Mrs. Kenny?
Yes.
Ms. Rubio?
Yes.
And Mr. Syak?
Yes. The meeting is closed. We'll resume in public at 7:30. Thank you. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We'll call the February 5th meeting of the Sayreville Board of Education to order. Take notice this public meeting of the Sayreville Board of Ed was transmitted to the Home News Tribune and the Star Ledger in accordance with Chapter 231, Public Law 1975, further in accordance with NJSA 10:4-621. A copy was posted outside the Secretary's office and filed with the Clerk of the Borough of Sayreville. Please rise for the pledge to the flag. Please remain standing after the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Ladies and gentlemen, in the past few weeks, we lost two people who, while not current students or board members or district employees, were very close to the Sayreville School District. And I'd like to recognize them both now. First, Chip Blazas was a Sayreville member of the Sayreville Police Department, but to the Sayreville Public Schools and to our students, he was more than just a police officer. He was also our DARE officer, and he was the face of the Sayreville Police Department to so many of our young children, inspiring them not only to lead a drug-free life, but also inspiring them to trust members of law enforcement, to build a relationship with them, and to teach them the importance of not only taking care of their minds, their bodies, but also respecting the law. He will be missed deeply by the Sayreville Public Schools, and I would like to have a moment of silence in memory of Chip Blazas. Thank you. In addition, last week, we also lost a member of the class of 2017. Mike Marcus was the salutatorian of the class of 2017, and he lost his fight with cancer. Mike Marcus not only was the salutatorian, he was also a standout track star and member of our track team. But more than that, he was a good-hearted individual. And you realize just what a wonderful person he was when on Saturday, members of the track team, members of this community, members of the high school faculty all came together at 5:30 in the evening. It was cold, it was dark, and we took one final mile around the Sayreville War Memorial High School track under candlelight in memory of Mike and all that he stood for and his legacy. We walked in silence, we walked in solidarity, and we walked in memory of Mike Marcus. I'd like to have a moment of silence to remember the salutatorian of the class of 2017, Mike Marcus. Thank you. Ms. Hill, roll call, please.
Mr. Balco?
Here.
Mrs. Bacco?
Here.
Mrs. Bloom?
Here.
Mr. Callahan? Mr. Esposito.
Here.
Mrs. Kenny.
Here.
Ms. Rubio.
Here.
Mr. Walsh. And Mr. Syak.
Here. Presentations, but actually before we get to the presentations, we've got our student council representative here. So I'll turn it over to him for his report. But first of all, the most pressing question, how is the new high school principal?
Awesome.
Thank you, John.
No problem. Thank you for buying a chocolate bar for me, too.
I'm broke, by the way.
This job is costing you money.
Yes.
So first things first, this week's Spirit Week, and we're just trying to get spirits up for the pep rally that's coming up this Friday. And then along with sports, wrestling hosted their state sectionals yesterday in our gym, and they did very well. And then also the winter track team headed up to New York City to compete in their state sectionals as well. I know a lot of people are going on to groups, and in winter sports, it might be wrapping up. I know we had the boys and girls basketball, their last regular season games this Thursday, but the girls hosted their cancer night tonight, and it's wrapping up. But spring sports are also coming in. Golf has already started. Baseball, tennis, all those other sports are also starting up again. And then keeping along with these changes, obviously the second semester started, so it's new. It's old news for us, but as freshmen, they get to adapt to new electives, new classes that they might have taken, and get in the flow of their still adapting high school careers. And then also the route for opportunity rooms came about. So I believe it was proposed by Dr. Labby, or proposed by you or to you, but the opportunity rooms, which is basically a study session / study hall that can be used during the cafeteria time, in which people can go out for 15 minutes, and some NHS students can also tutor them and just get a break after 15 minutes of lunch. Variety show is also a success. I know Mr. Sayak went there. It was very good. I didn't go, but I heard it was really good. And then Mr. Sayreville, if you think about it, that's also coming up around the corner. And then FBLA projects were handed in, so state projects and state competitions will be hosted in March in Atlantic City. And then finally, students and tomorrow's teachers, after taking the first semester to learn more about teaching schedules and how to adapt to their children, they are finally getting to go to the UES elementary schools, pre-K through 5th grade, to teach the students and impact their lives at such a young age. So a lot's going on right now, more to come, but yeah.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Lewis. Any questions for our student representative? Okay, and in all seriousness, Dr. Labby, I do want to thank you for your work at the high school. The feedback throughout your first month that I've received has been exceptionally positive in terms of the impact you're having there, the relationship you're building with the staff, the relationship you're building with the students, and the people I've talked to see value in you getting a firsthand experience there at the high school in terms of the role that you're going to play in selecting the next high school principal. So I know that you're not doing it for any additional compensation. I didn't realize it was now costing you money, but I hope you're at least enjoying the candy bars while you're there.
Oh, I'm having such an incredible experience. The kids are amazing. They've received me very, very well. The staff is incredible, and our administrative team is top-notch. So it truly has been an incredible experience for me, and one that I'll be forever grateful to the board for giving me the opportunity to experience. So I thank you very much. It's been wonderful. And Mr. Lewis talked about the opportunity rooms. We're actually going to be starting them this upcoming Monday. So in my Bomber Bulletin, I'll be informing the parents about that. But in morning announcements, they haven't had a chance to experience my morning announcements yet. So I'm going to make my first morning announcement tomorrow. I apologize in advance for that, by the way, John. And we'll be talking about the opportunity rooms during morning announcements for the next several days, so kids know how to go about signing up for the opportunity room. But I've had a chance to survey a lot of the kids who are trying to get work done during that lunch period, and it is awful difficult for them to do so in a noisy, environment, in an environment where you have food on your table and stuff like that. So I think that we're going to fill up at least one class, maybe even two classrooms of kids that want to utilize that time period to get work done. And we talked to the staff at our most recent faculty meeting about how we can put our heads together and think of ways in which we can get kids involved in other types of things during that lunch period. Maybe it's to practice their instrument. Maybe it's to work with the FBLA, the DECA, the student council, or maybe it's to work down in the fitness room or whatever, giving kids an opportunity to do different things during that second portion of lunch period. So there's more to come, but I'm really excited and I'm having an incredible time with the kids. I still have a tough time telling the difference between John and Tom sometimes. I'll say hello to Tom, I'll say, hi John, he'll say, I'm Tom, I'm like, okay. But it's been incredible.
Very good. All right, and we have executive session. Ms. Hill, what do we cover in executive?
The board discussed attorney-client privilege related to LC versus the Board of Education. Personnel and negotiations for the SCA were on the list to be discussed, but were not.
Okay, very good. And I think we have some presentations scheduled that are budget related.
Yes, we do. So as we know, go to the next slide. We are in the thick of our budget season. Going one more time. Just a little bit of update on our budget calendar. Erin just received word from the Department of Education that our projections for state aid probably will not come out until after March 5th. So what we decided to do was to flip-flop our Let the Children Lead activity from what was originally scheduled for March 19th to March 5th. This way we don't have to ask the Board of Education to approve the preliminary budget during a Let the Children Lead meeting, which was the case last year, and I know that people wish that that wouldn't have been the case. So knowing now that we're not going to get those projections until after March 5th, we're going to go ahead and flip-flop Let the Children Lead to March 5th so that we can ask you guys to approve the preliminary budget on March 19th and naturally give you and our public the opportunity to ask some questions before you go ahead and approve that. But as for tonight, we have three very special presentations. We have transportation, special education, and technology. And I know Ms. Powell, our incredible leader of our transportation department, has been waiting patiently here to give her presentation. And I know that she has to get up early tomorrow to make sure that our buses get going as well as Mr. Anderson. So we're going to let transportation go first. So please welcome Ms. Lori Howell, our Director of Transportation.
As you know, I'm only 7 months in, so I'm still very new to this. But looking back at the past 7 months, we did add some new vehicles to the fleet. By allowing the purchase of the one new Mini, we were able to create a Truman school-only special needs route. In the beginning of the year, we were having a lot of problems with the combined route and the children arriving to school late. So by doing this, that settled all those problems. Everybody's at school on time now. No other problems there. We did hire 2 permanent drivers and 2 substitute drivers that unfortunately are doing permanent runs. So they're really not able to sub fully, a little bit. We also, just this past week, began the process of upgrading the bus radios. The radios we currently have are somewhat antiquated. When we try to speak, we can only connect about 50% of the time. The new radios we're going with are just, they're amazing. The clarity is unbelievable. Even during the snowstorm we had back in November, my mechanic Barry and I were able to keep in touch with every bus. We had a bus out in New Brunswick, a bus out in Edison, never lost contact. So we're pretty excited about this upgrade. We also implemented the Zonar GPS tracking system. All of the buses are equipped with that, so we can monitor where every bus is at all time. There can sometimes be maybe a 5-minute gap, But just by logging on there, we can tell where every bus in the fleet is, when they stopped to pick up a child, if the door opened and closed, how long they took to do their pre-trip, etc. So it's a very useful tool. Most important for me being new in this position, I have met with every contractor, the owners of the companies, and we're working on establishing a good relationship and learning how to work together. And one of the most important things for me was getting them to understand communication is key. And unfortunately, with the lack of drivers, a lot of runs do run late. Sometimes they have problems covering runs. But like I keep trying to tell them, keep in touch. Let us know what's going on. If we can keep in touch and let the principals know which buses are running late, they know to hold the children back a little bit. Whenever possible, we could jump in and help cover a run if they're short-staffed that day. Because at the end of the day, we're all working together. Regardless of what the side of the bus says, we're all just trying to get the kids to and from school safely, and I truly feel we have to work together as one unit and not have an us and them mentality for that. So that's been going well. So going forward for next year, I would like to upgrade the bus cameras. We have different cameras in the buses. We have a lot of problems with them, grainy footage. Sometimes we pull a video, the camera failed, we don't have the video. We do have the new buses in the fleet which do not have cameras in them yet. So it's very important that we do this camera upgrade so that we do have cameras in every single bus. I would also like to add 2 full-size buses to the fleet. The reason for that is we have 2 retiring out, which will leave us with just 1 spare. Buses break. We need more than 1 spare. And additionally, having more buses will allow us to do more athletic trips in-house, which is a cost savings. I would also like another wheelchair-accessible mini, because we do not have a spare wheelchair-accessible minibus currently. We do transport 3 wheelchair students. So if one of those buses break, we're in a bind. Nobody even has a wheelchair mini that we could rent. So if something happens, we wouldn't have a way to transport a child. Another thing I'm interested in is increasing the distance for bus eligibility for the elementary students from 0.7 mile to 1 mile. It's only 3/10 of a mile, but by doing that, our buses won't be to the point of bursting. On one bus, Wilson Gray, there's currently 64 children assigned to a 54-passenger bus. Thankfully, they're not all riding, or we'd really have a problem. But all you need is that 1 extra child to show up, and we can't transport them. Creating centralized bus stops for the private schools and the vocational schools. The problem with that is for our St. John Vianney run, we have 49 children we're transporting, and there's 35 stops. So this driver, it's one of our drivers, she's out of the yard about 6:05 in the morning, and she's driving nonstop. There's stop, 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 stop. So I would like to make less stops, so this way she could accomplish that run fairly quickly and get on to the next run instead of just driving nonstop. And same thing with the vocational schools. We have 2 runs for East Brunswick Vocational School. They each have over 20 stops on them, so that's over 40 stops for the town. And again, it's just taking too long. By creating the centralized stops, they'll be able to get through town quicker. We'll be able to utilize those drivers on additional runs. Now, I would love to see the 2 sub-drivers that we hired this year turn into permanent drivers. They are doing permanent runs every day. They're both excellent drivers. I would hate to lose them. So I'd really love to be able to turn them into permanent drivers and give them more to do also. We could use them more efficiently too, which means we would need a new sub-driver. Okay, what I need to do this? I need money. I need approximately $16,000 for the cameras, and that's really a safety issue, not only for the children, but for the driver in any situation. And the first thing everyone wants to know is, I want to see the video, so we clearly see what happened if anybody was at fault there. The estimate for 2 full-size 54-passenger buses is approximately $185,000. Price for buses has gone up slightly due to the new 3-point seatbelts that are mandatory after March of this year. Approximately $73,000 for a wheelchair accessible minibus. And just the budget necessary to be able to turn the sub-drivers into permanent drivers. That's all.
So talk to me about the increasing distance for bus eligibility, because I know you said it's only 3/10 of a mile, but for every 1/10 of a mile you extend, that usually means about 100 people out at a school board meeting, and they're usually not coming out to tell me I'm doing a phenomenal job.
No, they're not.
And I guess I'm looking for the financials around. Let me be more specific. What's the financial savings as a result of doing that?
Well, the financial savings is we will not have to add another bus. Currently, the amount of children doesn't necessitate a second route. But as I said, if they all show up, then it will. So it's not a cost savings, won't cost money either, just lateral. But if more children show up, then we will be forced to add another route and another bus.
Got it.
How many more children would we be picking up in that 3/10 area around the whole town? We'd have to have more buses, right? More kids.
Less.
Oh, you want to increase it? I'm so sorry. I mixed that up.
That's okay.
But so we'd be leaving children out at this point. Did you figure that out? Then I'll go the other way with it. How's that?
Yes. Well, right now, this year, there's been a population explosion in Skytop.
Okay.
So where we had 2 buses in Skytop, they were both bursting. So we had to reconfigure the stops, and I have a Winding Woods bus now that had room, that had to go into Skytop to pick up the extras there. But now Winding Woods also is getting very crowded. So by doing the 3/10 of a mile more, that takes enough kids off one of the Eisenhower buses that goes into Lemire. Those children from Lemire will now become walkers. A lot of Lemire are walkers currently. This extends that. So that frees up the seats that we need to accommodate Skytop. And the other problem area would be on Wilson Gray up in Town Lake, where they've been building, and again, population explosion, and the bus is just so crowded.
All right. Lemaire's, do you bust them because of that dangerous road? Is it because Ernst Road is dangerous? Because isn't it right across the street, or am I missing Lemire?
Lemire, yes, it is right across the street.
But, so why would we bust them? Wouldn't they just walk anyway? I mean, 'cause you said we bust kids from Lemire.
Well, because now if they're...
Is that what it is?
It's big,
Yeah,
it goes way
some
back.
of them bust. The furthest in, when you go into Lemire,
Okay.
goes slightly past that 0.7 miles. So by going to the 1 mile, it eliminates that.
I just have one more. Is it possible to look into a used bus, wheelchair accessible bus?
I don't know, are we allowed to as a board?
Well, we can only use, excuse me, we can only use the buses 15 years from the date that they're, I don't know the registration date, or whatever it is. So whatever year they are. So if it's a 2020 bus, we only have till 2035.
Right.
So if we buy a used bus, that's a 2025, we still only get till, or it's a 2020, we buy it 5 years later, used, we still only get till 2035.
Okay.
So a lot of times it doesn't really work out that would be worthwhile for us.
Okay. Gotcha.
And with the mileage change, how many students would be affected approximately? How many would become walkers who are presently bused?
On the 2 runs currently that I'm talking about,
Well, no, if we're changing the mileage from 0.7 to 1 for elementary,
to be honest with you, I didn't look at the entire town. I looked at the trouble areas only that we have been having problems with this year. On Wilson Gray, I believe that was about 16 children. And for Eisenhower, it was, I believe, 13. So it's not a tremendous amount, but it's enough to free up the room that we would need.
okay. Other questions?
I have a question.
Sure.
Creating a centralized bus stop, is there a cost to that? Creating a bus stop, or it's just one of the goals to? Okay.
No, it's just where we put the bus stop.
And Do the old buses need new seatbelt upgrades if now they are requiring the three-point harness?
No, just anything manufactured after March.
Other questions? Dr. Labby, could you get the Finance Committee the full impact of what the busing change would be, both in terms, I don't think there's any savings from what it sounds like, but in terms of the number of students affected, and then the Finance Committee can consider it further?
Absolutely.
Okay. And for the members of the public, 'cause I know, Dr. Labby is going to summarize this as well for Talk Soup. We want to always encourage our administration to bring these ideas forward so that we can have a productive dialogue. But let's not panic here. We don't need 300 people out at a board meeting. It's just something that we're talking about right now. We still have plenty of time before a decision needs to be made.
Aaron, the current budget that we've received, if this .7 changes to 1, was there a cost saving built into the current budget for this?
No.
No, so the current budget doesn't have this included at all?
No.
Correct.
All right.
Other questions on transportation? All right, thank you very much.
And thank you again, Kyle. Next is special education. I know Mr. Nasser is here, as well as Ms. Burns and Ms. Christina, who make up our incredible administrative team with regard to special education. Mr. Nasser?
Thank you. Before we begin, I'm actually honored to introduce the people who came out to support the budget process. We didn't invite them, I promise, but we're honored and flattered that they're here. But Mrs. Siemba and Mrs. Gordon are, as you know, valued members, almost iconic within the special needs community. And we have Ms. Padma Davis, Ms. Mathey, and Ms. Check, who are essential members of our department as well. So good, thank you very much for coming out. So Ms. Burns, Dr. Fina, and I are going to take you through our goals and the budgetary implications of those goals, both currently and for next year. But before we do so, we always try to make this room tear up. So we're going to start with a little video. And actually, this one's going to put a smile on your face. This video was commissioned by Dr. Fina, and our TV production students actually put together created, produced, and edited it under the direction of their teacher, and we think it captures the spirit of our community. So,
You did a video? I tried to follow here for all the other people that presented and didn't have a video. Only showboating, Mr.
Drew, before you started, I do want to thank the students who actually worked on it, actually created it in the entire thing. Ariana Rosario, Michaela Gamble, James Hoffman, and Vincenzo Silva. Now the pressure's on you. Of course.
By the way, if you ask anybody in technology, this is the most terrifying thing that they go through. Right, Andrew?
I do have a flash drive.
Nice going, Mr. Napster.
Rick, sit down.
Come together to play a sport. opportunity to play sports, the inclusion in this team uplifts, inspires, and empowers every individual. The Unified Sports Committee are striving to achieve their goal of sports for all.
Yeah. So as you know, the administrative goals of New Jersey are aligned to athletes in Sayreville, are aligned to certain leadership domains from the Department of Ed. So we chose the equity and cultural responsiveness domain to align our goals of this year. So our first goal is to increase the percentage of students with disabilities in the least restrictive environment. Please note that least restrictive environment does not mean that all students will be placed in general education classroom and we'll just see how they do. It really speaks to a continuum of placement options that we need to be prepared to help students move through to achieve the least restrictive environment appropriate for that student. So to do this, our teachers and our child safety members really need the latest and greatest research-based programs and materials to promote student growth. So you can see here, these are just examples of some of the things that we've implemented. Most of our special education budget will remain flat from this year to next year, so that most of these items are already in place, but there are some items that we will be asking for additional funds for, which I'll be sure to highlight for you. So beginning with our math interventions, we know at the elementary level, all of our students have SD Math subscription licenses. We just recently added preschool SD Math using the IDA carryover method. So that we better align what we're teaching our preschoolers with what we expect them to be ready for in kindergarten. At the middle school, Dr. Fina and Ms. Mahalara and a large group of teachers actually put together a committee and selected MobiMax, which is a web-based program to promote differentiated instruction for math in our resource program. And then we also have Math Academy, either before or after school, in all buildings up through middle school using IDEA grant funds. Similarly, literacy interventions, we know our general education students are using fonts. Now, materials at the elementary level, our SUES teachers, they felt that the grade level materials that Fonts and Manel that we have were not really meeting the needs of certain students who are in inclusion classes, but we're still meeting maybe a year or two below grade level. So using IDEA carryover money again, we purchased Fonts and Manel materials for those inclusion teachers at grade 4 to 5. Project READ, this is a multiple year effort to place Project READ materials, which is a global language approach, highly regarded program. We want all of our POR teachers, our resource teachers at the elementary level through middle school to have Project READ materials, and we are almost there. We use our resource supply line item for that purchase, and we'll do so next year until everybody has the right amount of materials. And we also run our Literacy Academy either before or after school to get the elementary level using IDEA funds. Developmental interventions, this refers to the materials and resources that we provide for our students with developmental or intellectual disabilities, our multiple disabilities classes. We've committed to the attainment curriculum, which is a curriculum package that takes the New Jersey State learning standards that we're expected to expose all of our students to, and presents it on a more functional or life skills manner. So again, we're committed to getting those materials to all of our ND student teachers' hands using our ND supply account. Edmark is a vocabulary development program, again using ND supply account. And assistance in technology, we typically set aside approximately $18,000 each year to purchase individual devices or software for those students who can't communicate in typical manner. They can't communicate either verbally or they can't communicate through written out. Although we're not asking for any increase in this area for next year, you will note that in last year's budget system, this was a separate item by itself. This year, under the new budget system, it is incorporated into our CST supply account. And also reduced it by $3,000 just based on historical analysis of what we've been spending over the last few years. Behavioral interventions. We could talk all night about this. I know this board has been speaking about preventive measures over the last few meetings, but we are also required to address the mental health and psychiatric issues that our students have when they come into school. When we go to our county meetings, our state meetings, we hear in every district, this is a challenge that fortunate, however, that we have a 4 to 5 year relationship with New Jersey Care that's a vendor we use to provide what we call our BCBA service, Board Certified Behavior Analysis. And New Jersey Care essentially manages our MD and BD classrooms, behavioral disabilities and multiple disabilities classrooms throughout the district, using what's called an ABA, Applied Behavior Analysis philosophy. But they also provide our CPI services. CPI refers to crisis prevention services. This board back in September approved a new policy and procedure for crisis intervention that was more up to date and reflective of new state legislation that required us to do so. So New Jersey Care actually manages our CPI services and provides all of our training, which is ongoing and sustaining now that new legislation throughout the year. You may note that historically we have allotted $150,000 from New Jersey Care. This year, using IDA carryover funds, I just increased it to $175,000. I'm recommending we do that again next year to allow for that ongoing crisis prevention training that we need, and also to allow for the increased classrooms at the high school. We'll recall that classes, before we had 1, we now have 3. That's the greater need there. Risk assessments. We are very fortunate that our child safety members and school counselors truly doing a very good job in this area. It's one of the areas that you would lose sleep if you were in my position over, and sometimes I do. But either Mrs. Cole and I can't say enough good things about the CSD and school counselors. They work together to assess any student who might express a desire for themselves or somebody else. Believe it or not, it happens frequently. They're always responding. They do a phenomenal job. However, there are times when the student does need a greater level of care, and in the past, we would have to send those kids out, and if the family is able to access services privately, great. They would receive the service and come back in. If the parent was not able to do that, then we lose the kids. They'd be out of school for several weeks, 2 to 7 months at a time. So we now have Rutgers, as you know, at the middle school and the national class. We have a clinician on site, as well as a psychiatrist 1 day a week, and they help our families to manage medications, do what we call post-vention, which is follow-up care, make sure that the kids remain in school and don't lose any time out. We are recommending that next year we add an elementary clinician from Rutgers, so somebody who will cover all 4 buildings. I know that the court has some very difficult decisions to make. This item was moved over to the priority wish list, so that you could balance your budget initially. But I do ask you to give this the strongest of consideration to place back in when the time is right as you move through the budget process. It's really an important point. We have as much of a need at the elementary level, believe it or not, as we do at the middle school and the high school. Effective school solutions. We do have the same level of risk assessment need at the high school. We have an additional need at the high school, which effective school solution addresses for us. There are a number of students who are placed either on home structure by a physician or placed or who are hospitalized, perhaps at Princeton House or Fort Keeps, for several months. And we know that once the kids are out of school for emotional issues, it's very hard to get them to come back to school, complete their courses, and progress towards graduation, let alone keep their GPA up so that they can competitively apply to college. By the way, both Rutgers and Effective School Solutions are general education Tier 3 interventions. Most of the kids that are served by those 2 groups are general education students, although it falls out of my department. So at the high school, ESS essentially duplicates that partial hospital program. They run the program in the high school so that the kids can receive the treatment that they need, but stay in school. It's key. You can imagine you have an 11th grade honors math student who's out of school for 2 months. It's almost impossible for them to come back in and keep up with their progress toward graduation and again for higher level colleges. We are asking for a 3rd clinician next year. Right now we have 18 seats under our current contract. We're always at 18. I always have 4, 5, 6 kids waiting who are just as great a need as the kids that are currently in. As soon as somebody progresses out of the program, we replace it with somebody. So the 3rd clinician will allow us to go to 24 seats, and it will also add a layer of risk assessment to help our high school child safety members and school counselors. Again, I would ask you for the strongest of consideration for this. It's on the priority list right now, but we do hope that it makes its way back to the budget as we work through the process. And finally, I just wanted to note that we do view our extended school year as an intervention to make sure that kids progress for next grade level. It prevents what we call progression to summer slide, and I'm noting it only because the costs stay flat. It's all salaries. We allocate last year, I think we spent $240,000 to run our summer school program, all salaries. The cost should remain flat again for next year, but I did add 5% increase in for the staff members who will be moving up on July 1st to the next step on the salary guide. And we also are adding an additional class at the high school, which costs $3,000 for our third MD class. So Dr. Hughes will take you through our next slide. This is a big one. After this, there's a couple more slides that will finish this piece up. But before I do so, I do want to acknowledge how hard she's been working with our secondary staff as well to really enhance and deliver the transition services that our parents need us to deliver for their kids who are becoming young adults and will be faced with hopefully independent living, if not supervised living, when they're done with school. So this is a really, really big part of our presentation tonight.
So as Steve and Dasher had mentioned, I earlier last year put together a committee where I had the middle school, CST teachers, high school, CST teachers, related service providers, as well as parents come out to really hear about their concerns and how to best align our program so that way we can align it, strengthen it, and then build up to this 18 to 21 program. So we've been taking more and more trips, especially at the high school. They've been going out into the community more and more. They've recently taken trips to local restaurants, the library, reading to students at Little Stars, really getting a sense of the community and different things that they can do for later. Life skills both at the middle school and the high school. We have a really great program where they're learning to do putting things together, selling. At the high school, we're looking to start a Bomber Brew Cafe, Bomber Copy Crew, where we'll be able to make copies and shredding for our teachers and clubs and organizations, selling cafeteria items to our teachers. And this will give our students valuable lessons on how to work with money, selling things, collecting, keeping tallies of these items. So it's really great experiences for our students in preparation of the future. The structured learning in experience course, this really gives our students who are in our pull-out resource or outside of our MD classes the experience to prepare for a job. So our teacher goes over what a resume should look like, what do you wear on an interview, and then starting to give them various job experiences within the school. One of the things that we're also looking to do is have our students go around checking the Chrome cards for each of the departments and going through and then helping to fill out the tech requests with their teacher. So different things that might then bring them to wanting to do co-op education within the community. So last year we had a student that was a co-op student with a custodial staff. So these are real job opportunities that our students can later do. Also with our structured learning environment, our students are helping with food prep in the cafeteria here. So perhaps, when they graduate, they'll be able to get a job here as a lunch aide. The community-based instruction, so senior year, there's 8 students that are able to go out within the community. And, we look at various places such as Marshall's or Bubba's, other restaurants that the students can learn about and see what type of skills that they have would be best for their future. And most of the students in this program then get jobs and land jobs and keep them. So these are all things that we've been working on, but the next step, of course, is the 18 to 21 program. Right now, all of these students go out of district because we currently don't have a program in district, and that's what we're looking to do. And I will turn it over to you.
So philosophically, of course, we feel like most of our students should be educated here in Sayreville, in their home community, and we need our teachers. But just as importantly, the kids should get this life experience in their hometown, because that's the community that they will be using once they're 21 and have moved on. So I thought there's also a financial implication, which I'll go through as well with you. It should, I thought we begin with projected enrollment. So in September, I'm sorry, if you look at the middle column, in September of this year, we anticipate 2 students, maybe 3, who will require an 18 to 21 program. And I did allow for that in one of my tuition line items for this year. If you look at the column to the right, most 18 to 21 programs cost between $45,000 and $65,000 per student per year. So I took the middle, obviously. I took $55,000 per student as an estimate. This does not include transportation costs, which will be in Mrs. Howell's budget, but we do know that to transport one student out of the district typically costs between $25,000 and $35,000 per year, if I'm not mistaken. So you can add that cost on as well. So in September 2020, this is when we recommend we open our own program. We'll have 3 students in that first year. And then the following year, 4 more students will be moving up. So that's why you see 7. The 3 students from September 2020 will be the second year of the program, and we'll have 4 more students. And you can see the numbers go from there. As an aside, in our MDE program, beginning with 9th grade all the way down to kindergarten, we have between 8 and 15 students per grade level. That will potentially be the 21 program. But what I thought was most effective was to take our current middle schoolers. So if you look at the bottom row, 2025, we currently right now have 22 middle schoolers with intellectual and developmental disabilities that will likely need an 18 to 21 program. As a disclaimer, there are some families who do choose to graduate their child after 12th grade or perhaps after 1 additional year, but for the most part, historically, almost all of our MD students will remain in school through 21, so we should be prepared for that. So in the year 2025, we'll have 22 kids at one time in an 18 to 21 program. So our current 8th graders right now will be in the 3rd year, our current 7th graders will be in the 2nd year, and our current 6th graders will be in the 1st year. That's how we get that number for 1 year. And you can see the cost there would be $1.2 million. But to me, more importantly, although I know financial responsibility is important, our kids belong here. That's how we feel as a department, and that's what we are asking you to consider to do. So let me flesh this out a little more. So if you go forward, I'll put the actual numbers in for next year, but it's not hard to estimate what the cost would be. It starts with facilities I mentioned last year. We envision 2 classrooms. The majority of the program is out in the community. The kids do start the day in district and perhaps return in district at the end of the day. So we need 2 classrooms with handicap, really adequate handicap accessible bathrooms. But one of the classrooms needs to be renovated completely to look like an apartment. So we need full kitchen, washer, dryer, recreation area. We all know how to use our homes for not only life care, but also for recreation. We have to teach our kids to do that because they may not be with their parents after 21, 22 years old. So we're looking at renovating. Jimmy has always been supportive of our department and has done whatever we've asked him to do quickly and efficiently, but he would be faced with renovation costs in his budget, so we have to be prepared for that. Lowe's is pretty generous in providing districts with grants to do some of this, so should we move forward, I will certainly apply. They typically award districts funds for the appliances, the countertops, things like that. It's not a guarantee, but it's certainly a good shot that we can get something like that to help us. Staffing, we would need a vocational teacher, not an easy certificate to find, so you can expect somebody to come in, put the higher end of the salary guide. That person serves as a job coach. They supervise these work experiences in the community. We need to have professionals. We would also have the commercial driver's license because they would be driving. We need a dedicated van or minibus that stays with the program the entire time. And the curriculum items, I could probably finance these or support these out of our current supply accounts. But I thought it was worth noting. Career inventory software, there are a lot of state and federal agencies that offer things like that for free. What we see the market budget is important. Our young adults at that point will need to learn how to shop for themselves, go out with a list, use sale coupons, circulars, but more importantly, square up with the cashier, know how to make eye contact, know how to purchase something, get Burns is going to finish up with our preschool slide, where it all starts. I think we're now reaching 2032 and 2033.
2031.
2031. Right? But before I do so, I really take a moment to really acknowledge Ms. Burns, Ms. Padmore, and the staff over at our preschool. They have created what is really, I mean, people are moving here now for this program. It's really a flagship program in the district. We're very proud of it. They work very hard to do this. It's actually the size of the school, as you know, so it's a school within the school. And we are talking about expansion at some point, and perhaps moving on to a larger space to accommodate that expansion. But I really can't say enough with our viewing staff as to what they put together over there. If you know Mrs. Burns, you know that she's always smiling. If you really know her, you know that she's very sarcastic. She's always smiling. But she's out on duty, as Patty was out in the snow.
She scares me.
Ms. Burns is making personnel decisions on a daily basis like every other principal. She has school security to deal with, curriculum decisions. So it's really, really a large operation at this point. I just wanted to acknowledge all the work that they did.
Hi, thanks, David. Now I'm blushing. Thank you very much. I just want to begin by saying that I'm probably one of the only administrators in the district that has a job where the kids are just extremely happy to see me 30 times a day when they walk back and forth to the bathroom. So it never gets old. Currently we have 13 classes up at the UES. We have 2 classes over at Little Stars. We have 5 full-day integrated classrooms with a total of 18 kids in each classroom. We have 3 ABA classrooms, or self-contained classes, 2 transition classes. We have 3 AM classes, 3 PM classes, and we have 2 AM classes over at Little Stars. Currently, we have 4 half-day spots open for general education students, and we have 11 open for our classified students. As of this morning, we have a total of 287 preschoolers in the district. Inclusion is really one of our goals at the preschool level, and we really follow the best practices in early education. What we have done at the preschool for our self-contained students, we make sure that students, whether they're verbal or nonverbal, get to spend partial time during the day in with our integrated classrooms. We have teamed up those classrooms, the 5 classrooms, the integrated classrooms, with our self-contained classrooms, and they figure out a schedule. So we have kids going back and forth, whether it's for a small group or center time. And then, of course, we also have unified sports, and all of our specials are also integrated. And I think for even the teachers that have been teaching integrated classrooms for years, they have found it very rewarding having a lot of our nonverbal students go into their classrooms for partial time during the day. These students may not be verbal, but they can follow directions. They are integrating, just interacting with their typical peers. And it's amazing to see a 3-year-old verbal child go up and ask a nonverbal child if he wants to play, and the conversation goes back and forth without any teacher interference, and we're listening to the verbal 3-year-old turn around to another child and say, oh, he's not ready to talk. He's going to start talking next week. Let's have him play with us. And that's what inclusion is to us at the preschool level, and we're hoping that when they get into the elementary level, that it carries over. As David mentioned, we are starting ST Math. The teachers had their training last Friday. We have, in about 2 weeks, we're hoping to be up and running. And we're also taking a look, I did speak to Dr. Shediak about the possibility of having Fontes and Pinnell at the preschool level to help the transition into kindergarten be a little easier also. So that's something we're looking into. David mentioned the growth potential. We did, even though we didn't get the grant, That doesn't mean that we haven't given up. The hopes is to have an early childhood center. And we did learn from the refusal from the state that we do have the potential in Sayreville to have about 650 to 700 preschoolers. Based on, they took that number, they looked at the number of students in the second grade throughout the district, and they doubled it. So they are estimating that we'd be able to accommodate at least 600 preschoolers based on the numbers in Sayreville. We were one of the highest. I think that's probably it. So, we're just going to sum this up with a little video to show you all the great things that are happening at Project Beacon.
Questions for Mr. Nestor? All right, I'm going to ask an out-of-the-box question.
No.
So, look, I mean, you mentioned Vision 2030, 31. Really, I see Vision 2035 here because you probably, out of anyone here, within the confines of Sayreville, are focused on P to 21. So actually, your Vision 2036, if you include our preschoolers. This 18 to 21-year-old piece has always intrigued me, and I think there's a huge opportunity here. So let me ask this question. Erin, hang on to your seat, because this is going to involve you. Why couldn't we have an enterprise fund, which is the board's business account. Our cafeteria runs through it, our for-profit preschool runs through it. Why couldn't we come up with a business plan that said, we're going to do this 18 to 21 program, and we're going to go to Amboy Bank, and we're going to take out a loan to build these classrooms, this school, whatever we're going to do, and we're going to charge from the enterprise fund Sayreville the tuition, which we would be paying anyway, and in addition to that, we're also going to open it up to other districts as well who could send their children here and pay us instead of paying a third party. And in theory, I would hope that the outside tuition would ultimately pay for all the construction and all the initial startup costs. And by the time we get to 2024, 2025, we're actually saving money because we've got our own program and we're providing that program, a quality program, here in Sayreville. What are the impediments to doing all that? Because I'm sure there have got to be some.
I can't speak to the loan, but certainly when we start a program, we know that they will come. So we'll most certainly have some tuition student requests should we open a program, much like we did with ESS in our first year when we brought 3 students from neighboring townships. So I think that once you open it, people will reach out and ask us if they can have a far as loans go.
Well, and the other piece is, you didn't say it, but I mean, your Vision 2036 is you're looking to build the premier P to 21 special education program in the state. You didn't say it, but I can see it, I can feel it.
I feel like we owe it to our kids, they'll be young adults, as I said, we owe it to our families. These kids, they're here, they're part of our community, and we really want to send 18, 20 kids to another school, which could be 30 minutes away. Our parents, they want their kids here, nearby, in their town, learning to use their local banks, post office, New Jersey Transit here, not in another town.
So, Erin?
Yes, if we do build it, it will be premier.
So, Erin, what would stop us from doing this?
I don't know if it's legal, but I can look into it.
The answer to your question is the law.
Well, listen, it has to be legal because I'm not going to jail for it. But and that's the other look. If there is an obstacle to doing this, and it is the right thing, and the law is the only thing standing in our way, the Assembly Speaker happens to come from District 19. Maybe this is an opportunity for us to try to press the envelope on this, but do it legally. I mean, Dr. Labby, is this something that you see potential for here?
Yeah, we can definitely explore
I'll look into it, absolutely.
You were right in the beginning. It is out of the box, so we'll do our homework.
Okay. And this currently is not in the budget as it presently is presented?
No, we need a year and a half to prepare. So
I know that.
I think it for 2020, but I think time is now. I think we have to decide this in the next month or two.
And I'd like to be ahead of it.
Do you have any idea, and I don't know if I saw it, any idea what the cost might be to start this up?
Well, again, it's like a facility, until we know that. If we have to move our preschool somewhere, expand it, maybe it opens up some space, maybe some space is slower, maybe we lease a space, as you mentioned last year. So until we know where we're going facility-wise, it's hard to approximate that. But it's easy to approximate the salary of the teacher,
Right.
the cost of the vehicle, it's easy to approximate those things. Beyond that, there are not a lot of costs.
Okay.
Things, renovations, electricity and things like that.
All right, any other questions or thoughts on the special ed side?
I have a question. Dr. DeFino, with the Bomber Brew, would the interim principal be able to get a double mocha cappuccino latte with skim?
Whatever you want.
I'm sold.
Get one for the student rep, too. All right, thank you very much.
Good job. Well, Mr. Blockroy, the pressure is now on you. So we've had a great transportation presentation followed by another wonderful presentation by our special education department. Now, Mr. Blockroy is going to present to you on what our vision is for technology, beginning with 2019 budget.
First, I think I have to task our social media manager next year with coming out with videos of the special That'd be you. Let's review a little bit of what we've been doing this year. We have a lot that we've accomplished so far. We have a lot that's still ongoing. Technology, like a lot of our other areas, facilities, it doesn't stop. It's an ongoing 12-month process. There's always something that we're working on. A primary item that we achieved this year, we expanded our device count to students, not only in our K-5 level, but we actually focused in on our pre-K level as well this year. And we have our 1-to-1 device ratio from pre-K through grade 5 at this point. 6 to 12 still has a good number of devices. We're not quite at the 1-to-1 level yet, but we are working towards that. We did implement a new student information system this year. That includes integrations with other software, special education, communication, the list goes on. It includes training on gradebook for our teachers. It includes launching the parent portal for our parents. It's a very embedded system in the district, so that is fully up and running at this point. We completed an upgrade to our virtual server infrastructure, inclusive of the new backup system for that, maintaining all of our in-house data, and make sure that that is secure. Don't lose anything from there. We purchased and deployed video-enabled stations and offices in all of our schools, so that when someone comes and they ring the bell, not only is there audio communications, there's also video communication directly there from that station. Parents or other visitors can show their identification before they buzz into the building. And one of our largest projects for this year is that we implemented new wireless access points and switching infrastructure for the entire district over the course of the summer and into the early parts of the school year. That'll help us support both our office side, our administrative side, our teachers and students, and all the devices that we've added over the years and going forward into the near future, so that we can maintain speed and efficiency and allow people to actually connect, utilize the network and the internet to be able to leverage those devices. Some projects that we are currently working on, metal detectors deployed to all buildings. You have them. Jimmy's team is working on electrical for those. But those will be coming for our visitors and in the high school, middle school, for our student population as well. We are nearly ready to deploy an ID card system for the high school and middle school. Discussions with Dr. Labby and our security committees will be rolling this out in stages, moving towards students carrying and having the cards and eventually to swipe stations so that when they come in, we'll be able to report presence in the building. Both as a security measure to make sure that people coming in the building are the people that should be coming in the building, but also in the event of an emergency and an evacuation so that we know who's present and accounted for in the building, who's present at evacuation sites and things of that nature. We are in the process of upgrading our security camera system, both the video management system, as well as expansion of the security cameras themselves, exterior footage, interior footage, expanding greatly to increase our security portfolio, as well as leverage a more advanced system to help utilize that security footage and view it as well as retrieve it. We have put in the last several budget cycles an ongoing lab and media center upgrade dollar amount. So we are in the process of upgrading, continuously upgrading, but upgrading several computer labs throughout the district. We are currently engaged with Kronos, deploying a workforce management system. Again, this ties in to a great degree with what we're talking about with ID cards for students, where we know where staff is. Not so much their immediate locations in a building, but we know who's here at any given point in the day, who stepped out for lunch or to take a phone call or something else, so that in the event of an emergency, we know the people that we're looking to account for at an evacuation site, and that the staff member isn't somewhere in the building, they went down the road, they went home for lunch, something of that nature, so that in those events, we are able to account for everyone very quickly and efficiently. We're also working on deployment of an emergency management system. I don't want to go into a whole lot of detail on this for security reasons, but basically it will help the principals and the staff manage a world of components of drill structure, evacuation structure, and other components of our emergency management plans through a digital system. During the spring upcoming, we'll be working on door access control, so it's another security piece, upgrading that, making it more efficient, more reportable, and more secure. We are deploying a learning management system as part of the Encore suite. We're deploying it starting at the high school. We've already spoken with our supervisory team. They've selected Looking forward to next year. We have no major technological infrastructure projects scheduled for next year. The bulk of our budget for next year is just maintaining our software, our hardware licensing structure, our professional services, things of that nature. We are looking to continue to keep that media center and computer lab upgrade component in now for what would be its third-year cycle, so that we don't have computer labs or media centers that are ever in a position where they're dealing with outdated technology while classrooms are getting new devices. We are looking to increase our device count. Ideally, we would like to target one-to-one ratios at the middle school and high school. Our nursing team has been looking at a health management system that will increase the efficiency and record keeping within the medical portion of our district to make for faster data access and the ability to keep detailed records in a centralized system that can be accessed and shared with the appropriate staff. Our supervisory and principals have proposed a number of academic software that they are looking to bring forward into next year. We are constantly looking to add and replace our interactive boards and projectors around the district. We had requested, with all the technology projects that are going on, some additional technology staff members, some on the back end, people to help with the deployments, configurations, and managing all of these systems, and some on the front end where for a number of years now we've had a technology inclusion teacher, and we invested so much more in technology in the district that having an additional staff member with that expertise set that can help our teachers and our administrative staff integrate this technology to the classroom effectively, we're really at the point where we could leverage probably many more technology inclusion teachers, but we'd like to at least explore one additional. And then increase in our security cameras so that we can continue to expand and upgrade that system around the district. Now, as far as in our initial budget procedures and processes with the Finance Committee and Dr. Labby and Ms. Hill, all of our existing systems are being maintained in the budget, but currently as the budget stands, as it's been sent to the board, most of our new items are currently suspended.
Except Vision.
Yes, except the Vision. And that was a copy and paste error on my part. So Vision is going forward, but most of our other new items.
Nice going.
It happens. So we hope that as we move through the budget process, as we analyze this, we'll be able to add in some or all of these components back into the budget. But for the moment, as the budget stands, we are maintaining our current infrastructure, licensing, and software programs, hardware, carrying that forward into next year. But we're not expanding into any new programs, any new hardware, or new staff as the budget stands right now. Pretty much our outlook for 18-19 and 19-20.
Questions on technology?
I have a question.
Yes.
Do you by any chance know that price for the first line, the first one that was cut, the Chromebooks and the iPads, the $1,200?
Obviously, there's a unit cost to a device. So the initial proposed that would get us up to that one-to-one in pre-K to 12 was about $400,000 total. We often build those into these purchases, so the impact in an individual budget may be less. Ms. Hill could probably give some insight into that. But our raw cost to get us to that one-to-one ratio would be right around the $400,000 mark. Obviously, any increase in devices brings us closer to that goal. So if it becomes a reality that we can increase to some degree, but maybe not to the full extent, that would also be a benefit.
And the amount budgeted in order to accomplish the goal that's on the screen, it came out to about $600,000. So if we were to do a lease purchase, it would be $200,000 for the next 3 years.
For everything or just the one line?
For everything he budgeted for.
Right.
No, but Mrs. Backo was just asking about the
For
Chromebooks
the first line.
line.
I was only asking about the Chromebook.
Oh, just the
1,200.
Chromebook.
Yeah.
So were they cut
Doesn't
in?
include the iPads. Okay, yeah.
Right, so each of these has a cost in the budget.
Chromebooks were about $300,000. iPads were $100,000, and there were a few other.
Yeah, the total devices was about $600,000.
Devices mixed into that, so right around
All right, so let me rephrase the question that I think Mrs. Backo's trying to ask. To get to a one-to-one in this district, how much money do we need next year?
$600,000.
So it is, but that's in 1 year, or is that going to be lease purchased and split?
Well, we would purchase it, we would get the devices in 1 year, but we'd end up paying $200,000 for the next 3 years.
Okay, so
For
we would
1,200 devices.
For the devices that we need.
So it's 600,000 for 1,200 devices.
Chromebooks, there's about 300 iPads mixed into that as well, so there's a varying number there, but with a lease purchase, 200,000.
Gets us
year.
to one-to-one.
For one-to-one.
Per year for the next 3 years.
Per year.
And that's not replacing any of those 2,000 units that we have there beyond end of life.
No, so as we've discussed in past board presentations, that's always a concern. Our original deposit of Chromebooks are aging. We need to repair them as we go and replace as necessary. The fear factor of what happens when they go into life, those dates have passed and nothing has happened. There is always the risk that one day we turn around and they're not supported by whatever safety testing is available in that given year. That is a considerable risk. But we now do have a good mix of newer devices as well as older devices. So in the event that that happened, we could still sustain testing. That it would be a scheduling conflict here and there that we have to work through. But we could sustain it. So as we've added devices, we haven't been able to outright say, take this 500 old devices and let's replace them. But there are certainly points in time where an individual device becomes unrepairable. And we do replace that out of general supplies at that point. So we are slowly phasing out our old devices, but we have been able to focus a direct replacement. If we hit that one-to-one ratio, then we can move back and really focus on that going forward.
Do we need the, I'm sorry, did you follow?
Is there any more like E-rate funding we're getting, or E-rate rebates we're getting, or?
So that switch and access point infrastructure used up the majority of our E-rate funding. We had spoken to our E-rate team actually earlier today. It's a small amount available to 3 of our buildings still. So we are going to go forward and repair that E-rate line. Whether we're actually able to purchase anything with it, to be seen as we move forward with the budget, but at least it will be available to us. I believe it was high school, Arlet, and Samsel have some residual.
Will we need the additional staff if we go to the one-to-one? Are those two inextricably linked? Or can we do the one-to-one without increasing the technology staff?
We can.
We can.
I think that these 3 positions are 3 very different positions. We confuse so much technology as far as systems in the district, both in the classroom as well as in the back office. What was once a point of, we have a few content area softwares, and maybe the business office has a software. Everything we do in the district at this point touches a piece of technology. So when we created the engineers positions a few years ago, they've really taken off to be able to manage and develop and deploy a lot of these systems. When you bring in a new system, there is a training component that our PD department does wonderfully with our staff, but to get those systems up and running is a massive time investment. And our technicians that are repairing our systems that go on the district don't have that ability to, I'm going to forget about all these broken computers or Chromebooks that I'm going to fix today to deploy a system. So we've centralized that. So the engineering positions are critical to us in maintaining that infrastructure. Technology inclusion teacher, Ms. DeSantis has done a wonderful job in years that she's done that. But that ability to have an expert, almost like a coach model, to be able to go in and work with the teachers one-on-one or in small groups or by building, say, here's the initiative that we're working on in technology order system where you can submit a work order, but if you need immediate assistance, yes, you can reach out to Mike, you can reach out to me. We're going to get that person to you, but if we're in a meeting or something else and we don't answer the phone, you may have something as simple as, I'm a teacher and I got locked out of my account, and now I've got to wait 40 minutes before someone sees that work order, and I've lost the ability to use this technology in my class. So our goal with the help desk position was to have that person, who could certainly serve other roles in the district as well, but to have that person that's that all accessible, that is able to deploy, handle the basic tier 1 support. Forgot your password, this system's down, I need to notify someone, but then also be able to reach out to the rest of the technology team and appropriately get someone to respond in a fast and efficient manner. So 3 different aspects of technology, really.
And are we ready at this point to fully utilize a one-to-one environment in terms of our instructional staff, our curriculum, et cetera? Or are we better off scaling up 600 a year and give our other, the instructional pieces a chance to also integrate so that we maximize the use of the equipment? I don't know the answer to that question.
I think they're intertwined. And Dr. Shetty, I may have input on this as well, but more and more of the curriculum is being based on software or a digital book or some other component or enhancement that we're doing. And look at the preschool, we moved one-to-one down there, and now they're able to bring in SD math and other components like that. I think that's a direct link at this point. Yes, I do think if we're at that 1-to-1 ratio, we're leveraging nearly all those devices. Some of the K-5 staff were actually upset when we explained what 1-to-1 ratio meant in their buildings. Because it's 1-to-1, it's student to student, but based on cart deployment and things of that nature, it didn't mean that every classroom necessarily had a cart of devices. It may have meant that a team of teachers are moving a cart between them because not every classroom is occupied at any one time. And our teachers many of them were upset that it didn't mean that there was a cart in every classroom so that they didn't have to lose some instructional time to get that cart, move it over, something of that nature. So I'd say our instructional staff actually can go beyond 1-to-1 so that they can even conserve time to use the technology.
I thought that's what it meant also.
Well, yes, that's an important
To be
question.
honest with you.
So one-to-one is not 6,000 devices that matches our enrollment.
1-to-1 would mean if we have 6,200 students in the district, we have 6,200 devices accessible. But if you think about how particularly something like this building would be laid out, not every classroom is used every period.
Right.
So 6,200 devices may not necessarily be unless we start handing them out to someone in the morning, which could be an option to go 1-to-1. You come into the building, every homeroom has a cart, you pick up your device for the end of the day, and as part of the schedule, you come back to that room at the end of the day and you charge your device. That could be an option, but it is based on where we have the carts and the charging devices, so there is some movement within that. So 6,200 devices to 6,200 students, but that may not necessarily mean that every room has a cart of 32 devices.
So it's going to take a lot of logistics in order to make sure a student has a device their entire day, especially in a building like this.
In the larger building, K-3, it's a little easier for them to navigate. Yes, the administration there has come up with some plans, but the larger the building, the more the students move about the building, the harder it is, and actually the more devices you need to be able to leverage that you have a device.
So we probably need to be around 7,000, 7,200 in order to truly have an easy one-to-one.
Probably somewhere around there, but I think our starting point would, let's get to the direct one-to-one.
Oh yeah, no, I'm with you. Okay. Other questions on technology? All right. Thank you, Mr. Glock-Malloy. All right, moving on to our approval of minutes. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes of the regular and executive session of January 15th?
So moved.
By Mrs. Bloom, do I have a second?
Sure.
By Mr. Esposito. Any remarks on the minutes?
I just have one, there's a typo in the executive session, it just has to be fixed, that's all.
Nothing material, just a
No,
typographical error?
material.
Got it, okay. Roll call.
Mr. Balco?
Yes.
Mrs. Batco?
Yes.
Mrs. Bloom?
Yes.
Mr. Esposito?
Yes.
Mrs. Kenny?
Yes.
Ms. Rubio?
Yes.
Mr. Syed?
Yes. Dr. Labby, over to you for your superintendent's report.
Thank you, and I will be brief. Maybe. On Vision 2030 Finance and Infrastructure, I'm just going to bring up one item to you. It's the approval of a contract with Hanover Research Council, LLC. It's to extend our grant services to the end of June. We do have several grants that are in the works right now that they're helping us with. In fact, thanks to the hard work of Dr. Shediak, Ms. Maharana, and Ms. O'Connor, we are close to hitting submit for the National Honda Foundation STEM grant. We did submit.
We did that on Friday.
So that's a grant that could bring us about $45,000 if we were to get it. Our next grant that we're eyeing is also a STEM grant, and that's with Bristol Myers. And then after that, we're going to focus our attention on a 21st century community outreach grant from the Department of Education. So we do have 3 pretty big grants in the works. So we wanted to extend that contract to the end of June so that we could see if we could, get the greatest return in our investment with this particular service.
And March 8th marks the 1-year anniversary with this service, correct?
March 1st, well, March 8th in this particular case, yeah.
Got it, okay.
So can we ask them to focus their searches, at least some of them, on special education so we can look at that?
We have been. We've attempted a couple of special education grants as well. I mean, we've probably applied for, counting the America Honda Foundation grant, I think we've applied for about 5 different grants. So yeah, we are doing our best to focus on special education and so forth. But those are the 3 that we have right now in the queue. By the end of the year, we probably could have another one, we're hoping. We're hoping to maximize our investment with this company so that we can determine if this is the route we want to go next year in terms of using them to continue to get grant monies.
So can I ask a question with this company? Because I had that written down to talk at the Finance Committee, but we'll talk about it here. So I was under the impression that we'd be flooded with, not receiving grants, but have all these grants to apply for, like a much greater number than 5. I don't know why I was under that impression, but it seemed when we had that service, we were going to get more than.
Yeah, I mean, like I said,
bang for our buck.
We've already applied for a good 5 to 6 grants. So the grant process is pretty involved. It's not an easy process. For instance, the American Honda Foundation grant probably took a good month for them to put that grant together, that grant application, correct?
We actually started to work with them early December on that grant, and it was due on this past Friday. We just finally hit submit.
So you see a snowball effect, like maybe next year?
Yeah, I mean, the most important thing is to identify your goals as a district and then target the different grants that are out there that are in alignment with your goals. We did target 2, I believe. Mr. Nasser, you can correct me if I'm wrong. I think there were 2 special education grants that we targeted, but they had either closed or it wasn't worth our while. The return would have been like $3,000 to $4,000, which wouldn't have been worth our while to go after that. We did get the BASF grant that we're using to construct our greenhouses.
Yes.
At the high school. So again, we're learning a lot too about the grant application process. There's a little bit of a courting that goes on with the company. You send out an email to introduce yourself and give a little summary of what you're looking for and so forth. It's kind of a little dance that you play with the different companies. So we're learning a great deal about how to go out and apply for grants. But it takes a great deal of time and meticulous attention to detail to write a grant, and that's why having a grant service like this has been very beneficial for us to turn out, again, 6 grant applications thus far. That's 6, it's probably 2 or 3 more than, we've ever done, completely since I've been here. I mean, we've applied for the preschool expansion aid, but that's from the Department of Education. We've applied for the Special Education Unified Sports. We've applied for a couple of other leadership or teacher leadership grants and so forth. But when it comes to these major corporation grants, we haven't done a great deal of that, and we've completed 6 applications in the course of 1 year. So again, we're not completely sold on asking you to go ahead and expand their contract to the next school year. In fact, it's not actually in the budget. That is one of the cuts. But if we do turn out to get a return on our investment that's greater than $40,000, it's something that we're going to ask you to consider. But right now, we just want to have the opportunity to try to get the funds from the 3 grants that I just mentioned earlier.
Okay, thank you.
Moving my attention, any questions, any further questions on finance and infrastructure? Comments? Moving ahead to student achievement, we're asking you to approve the participation, and we'd like to commend and congratulate the many high school and middle school students who will be participating this year in the Middlesex County Arts High School and Middle School program. You can find that on pages 9 through 12.
Ms. Hill, I just need to abstain on that item because I serve on the board of that nonprofit.
And numbers 3 and 4, as we always do, we do have some co-curricular activities that we need you to approve as well, and those are on pages 12 and 13. Any further comments or questions with regard to Vision 2030 student achievement? Seeing none, I'll move on to 2030 governance. I'm going to ask you to remove number 2 from the agenda for the reasons why we explained earlier.
Yeah, so for the benefit of the public, we're removing this because we have several board members who are conflicted and are unable to vote on SEA matters, and we have 2 board members who are able to vote but are unfortunately not here. So it is the board's intent to approve this and to settle it. However, we need to wait until we have the full board present so that we have the required number of unconflicted members who can cast a vote.
So again, we will withdraw that, and we'll get that back on the agenda for February 19th.
Yes.
Number 3, we cannot thank Lorianne Dobrzinski enough. She is our media specialist over at Sayreville Middle School, and she's also our liaison to the Sayreville Borough Library. You know, it's quite a commitment that she has made for the past several years, and she once again asked to continue to be our liaison on their council and to serve as a trustee for our district. So we can't thank her enough, and therefore we're asking you to approve for her to continue to do so. Any further comments or questions on Vision 2030 governance?
Okay, hearing none, we will, oh, sorry, you got personnel next.
Unless you want to go to public right away.
Moving quick.
You are, my goodness.
Wait, can I ask one question? Do you think, why the significant drop at the high school in the HIBs? It's like the lowest in January. Is it just a month? Is it you?
I think it's the new principal.
I think it could be the principal. Could it be you? I'm trying to give you a softball here.
And I hit it out of the park, I hope. Thank you.
Okay.
You know, I mean, when it comes to that, and we've talked about that before, you know, there could be many reasons why. We'd like to believe that the efforts that we're making in the classroom, the efforts that we're making building-wide, are having an impact on our students. We'd also like to think that you know, we're becoming more educated in what is HIB, because it's not what everybody thinks it is. So again, there are many reasons, but I would like to believe that our staff does an amazing job with our students, and I think if you've had the time and you want to come out, we have incredible students here at the high school. Very mature, intelligent, and kind people. And I think that reflects that as well. Vision 2030 personnel. I didn't have the chance to say much about Carrie Haney, who announced her retirement. And you went ahead and accepted her retirement at the January 15th Board of Education meeting. So I'd like to say a few words about Carrie. After 22 wonderful and hardworking years, Mrs. Carrie Haney has decided to retire from the Sayreville School District to spend time with her family, including her first grandchild that is on the way. Mrs. Haney started her career in Sayreville as a substitute teacher in the district for 2 years. From there, she became a paraprofessional and has worked at the Eisenhower Elementary School and the Sayreville Middle School, and last but not least, the Arleth Elementary School. She has been an important figure at the Arleth Elementary School, particularly with the staff, and has been a leader amongst her colleagues. Many new teachers, in fact, reach out to her for advice and support, as she is always welcoming and honest. She has brought so much energy to Arleth and has worked tirelessly to ensure her students get the very best support they possibly can. Carrie will be truly missed, and we wish her all the best in her retirement. We do have some other staff members that will also be leaving us, and again, as always, it's a bittersweet moment. We're happy for them, but selfishly, we're sad for us because we will miss them dearly. Beginning with Mary Beth Comerford, she is a third grade teacher also at the Arleth Elementary School. There is no point to count the years. They are not important. Important are the things you did and the things we shall never forget that Mary Beth has done for the Arleth School and our district. After many years of dedication and hard work, Mrs. Mary Beth Comerford has decided to retire and spend time with her family and friends. Arleth Cares is Arleth's motto, and that all started with Mrs. Comerford. Many years ago, Mary came up with that slogan and was certainly the face behind it. For many years, Mary has led numerous other amounts of food drives at Arleth that have helped many feed local families. She's worked tirelessly and diligently to get children interested in helping the community and teaching them how they too could make a difference. This is a lesson that goes beyond the classroom and one that will mold these young individuals as they become adults. Mrs. Comerford has been a mentor, a colleague, and most importantly, a friend to everyone at Arleth. She is always the first to lend a helping hand or to give some helpful advice to a new teacher. To say that she will be missed is a very, very large understatement. Therefore, we wish her all the best on her retirement as well. And finally, Mrs. Eileen Truhan, a sixth grade teacher at the Sayreville Middle School, has also decided to leave us and to retire. Eileen Truhan has been teaching for 12 years with the Sayreville Public School District. While employed in Sayreville, Eileen taught grade 6 mathematics. She has always had a positive, warm tone with her students as well as her colleagues. Mrs. Truhan earned a master's in teaching from St. Peter's College in May 2012. She also participated in the Summer Mid-Jersey Meadowlands Math and Science Partnership Program through Middlesex County College in 2012. While exchanging ideas with teachers at other grade levels from other schools, she contributed much to that program and turnkeyed much of what she learned back to the middle school. Eileen has always been well organized and has supported her students in great depths with regard to mathematics instruction. She has been a tutor for the Sayreville Middle School before and after school academies, such as the NJAS 6, and enjoys every aspect of school pride at the middle school. Mrs. Truhan enjoyed chaperoning many school functions and is a true bomber. You could find her at the Sayreville Bomber football, basketball, and baseball games over her time here in Sayreville. Eileen and her husband plan to travel and will be looking forward to spending time with their first grandchild. Needless to say, Mrs. Eileen Truhan has much to look forward to in her retirement years. She has added a great deal to the middle school staff and to the students whom she has taught so well. Congratulations to Eileen on her retirement. And on behalf of the students and the staff in the Sayreville Public Schools, we wish Mrs. Truhan, Mrs. Comerford, and Mrs. Haney the best in their retirement, and we can't thank them enough for the outstanding manner in which they have served this district, our students, and this community. Moving on to numbers 5 and 6 and 18 through 19, which you can find on page 17 in the addendum. Naturally, we're asking you to approve the appointment of some certificated and non-certificated staff. Am I keeping you up?
Sorry.
I couldn't resist that one. Number 11, we're asking you to approve the appointment of personnel and positions and stipends for the Unified Sports Program. We just saw an incredible video of that using IDEA or Special Olympics grant funding. You can find that on pages 18 and 19. And finally, number 21, we're asking you to approve teachers to work in the middle school Algebra 1 tutorial program. And that will be from February 12th through April 11th, and you can find that on the addendum. Mr. Sayak, that's my report.
My question is, you being principal and superintendent, why aren't you yawning?
Because Mr. Lewis dared me not to. We're having a staring contest right now. Who's going to stay up the longest? And he's winning.
Any questions on the superintendent's report? I'd also like to extend the board's congratulations as well to the 3 retirees. You're looking at a long history of service to the Sayreville Public Schools and 3 truly dedicated individuals. So thank you very much for your service to our students. With that being said, I'll open it up to public for anyone who wishes to address the board on agenda items only. Yes. Yes. And just state your name and address for the record.
See if I can knock that over. Sandra Check, 84 Whitehead Avenue, Sayreville, New Jersey. My daughter Jordan is an 8th grade special ed student at the middle school. And I appreciate the presentation, Mr. Master. And I do have a question about it. I think your idea of developing a business plan is excellent, but I do wonder who we are modeling our program after. What are the best practices out there for the 18 to 21 program that we're modeling our program on?
Okay, Dr. Labby, would you be able to answer that, or Mr. Nasser?
Well, I'll pass that off to Mr. Nasser.
Okay.
So we're currently...
It's a good question, by the way.
We're currently visiting existing programs. So between Dr. Pina, Ms. Burns, and I, we've covered about 8 or 9 programs so far, and we actually are going out to Monroe on Thursday to visit. So we want to see what districts are currently doing. And then beyond that, again, we still have facilities here, and that will be the beginning part of our program. As far as a model, there's no specific model that we're aware of.
Living where South New Jersey, I mean, is you know, if there are programs that we are aware of, you know, across the United States, you know, where's the best?
So
the best.
Well, we will be the best, that was hope.
Where's the best of the best?
The goal is to promote what we call transition services, post-high school learning. How can we best prepare our young adults to live either independently or as close to independently as possible, like we supervised. So you're really promoting what's called community-based instruction. You're for a model. We're looking to teach kids in the community. So that's why I say the majority of the programs, if you go to any of the programs in the surrounding area, take place in the community.
No, I get that. But there's a framework that we're going to develop, and going to visit, you know, existing programs is great. But if there's a framework out there that we can model our program after within our community, we want it to be the best. We're going to spend money, you know, and not ship our kids out anymore. Let's spend money smartly and, you know, at the, you know, highest level. Make our program, you know, one that, you know, will be desired by other students, you know, other parents, other school systems. Let's do it for our kids.
Please do share what you find if you're looking at national models.
And listen, your point, I think, is very well taken. From my perspective, I mean, Mr. Nasser and I didn't coordinate this whole business plan discussion. It kind of came to me as we were having this conversation. So I don't think Mr. Nasser is even at a point yet to really fully flush out the program and come up with that business plan. But your point's very well taken. If we're going to build it and hope that they come, we want to make sure that it's the best program. Dr. Lavin?
And I will say, too, I mean, you know, I understand what Mr. Nasser is saying with regard to going out and visiting different programs. You know, in my experience as a director of special education in another district as well as in this district, I've always had the opportunity to go out to different public school districts or different private schools to take a look at their programs. And what's interesting is each program that I've seen has a very unique characteristic to the program. For instance, I know that there was one program, that some of our kids go to. They actually have a ShopRite built into the school. So the kids actually run the ShopRite in a partnership with that group. Yet another school district that I've been to, they have a Dunkin' Donuts in their school and so forth. I've been to other school districts where Mr. Nasser talked about the apartment. They had this grand scale apartment with a laundry room and a kitchen and so forth, but not the other piece of it. So I've seen programs that they have great pieces, and I think what Mr. Nasser is doing is he's trying to take a look at all the different things that people are doing so well and try to bring it together as one program. If I can go ahead and say that.
A district in North Jersey purchased a home, and they're running it out of a house in the neighborhood. So this is a novel idea.
I mean, we want to, you know, yeah. I mean, hopefully we've been able to demonstrate to the board and the public that, you know, we're not into doing things partially. We want to do things the absolute best way possible. And I think in order to do that, we have to do our research. We have to, if we can go see places, we need to go see them. If we need to conduct research through articles and so forth, we'll do that as well. But if we're going to build something, we're going to build it to the best of our ability, a program that's going to meet all the needs of our students as they transition from public school district to adult life.
Mr. Sayak, I'm going to give you some homework.
Okay.
As past president of the National School Boards Association, maybe you could reach out to some of the state presidents to see what their great programs are.
I can. I can also check on our Center for Public Ed as well.
There you go.
Okay.
Sounds like a plan.
Other questions regarding the agenda? All right, hearing none, we'll close public, and I entertain a motion to approve the superintendent's report.
So moved.
By Mrs. Bloom, do I have a second?
Yes.
By Mrs. Rubio, any comments on the superintendent's report? Hearing none, roll call.
Mr. Balca?
Yes.
Mrs. Batco?
Yes.
Mrs. Bloom?
Yes.
Mr. Esposito?
Yes.
Mrs. Kenny?
Yes.
Ms. Rubio?
Yes.
Mr. Sayak?
Yes. Okay, committee reports. Any committees that have met that wish to give a report? Mrs. Rubio.
I'm reporting on the Student Achievement Committee meeting, which was held on the 22nd of January. And our first topic was the addition of religious holidays to the school calendar, specifically, as we've discussed before, Diwali and Eid al-Fitr. For the current school calendar next year, 1920, there was no change needed to our proposed calendar because the holidays fell on Sunday. So nothing was needed in that part. For 2020-2021, we would need to make accommodations for Thursday, May 13th for Eid. And that's as far as we discussed, was the 2 years up and coming. We discussed comparison of student achievement results for Mr. Sayak, specifically in comparing our school's achievement, our student achievement, to a similar district, and we were surprised with the results. Next, we spoke of middle school electives, changes that will be enacted in the fall. One new choice will be offered to the students each school year, each school marking period as an elective. So they will have a choice each quarter. No, I've got it wrong. I'm seeing you shake your head, thank God. No, one choice for the whole year.
Right.
Now I got it. No additional teachers are needed as plans are looking right now. We talked a great deal about the grants that have all been mentioned, as well as the grant writing company. So I think you've covered those. The CTE grant, we already know the number on that. The 47,000.
The 47,000 is the AP Computer Science.
Advanced Computer.
AP Computer Science.
Yes.
Advanced Computer Science grant, 47,000. And interesting, there's only one student under graduation requirements. There's only one student of the class of 2019 that has not met graduation requirements, and they are being provided with alternate assessments. So I like that in terms of achievement as well.
Excellent.
And also for the Superintendent's Parent Advisory Council, our next meeting will be next Wednesday at 7.
So what are the next steps on the school calendar? Have we adopted 2021 yet?
No.
Okay. And are we looking at other districts? And first of all, are we sure we've covered any other holidays that may be of interest? Have we assessed that piece?
Well, we took a look at the major three.
Okay.
And that was the two Eid holidays as well as Diwali holiday.
Okay. So the next step would be, I guess, working with other districts to see how they accommodate the holiday, and then you would draft a calendar and see if we can.
We've already drafted the calendars, and I've spoken to the other school districts. I know that I've spoken to Edison, Piscataway, a couple other districts, and basically, just as we had discussed, those are the three major holidays that they observe in terms of school closings.
Do we know going forward if the three holidays will ever all be during the week? Have we looked further out?
I'm not sure. I know that, and gentlemen, correct me if I pronounce this wrong, and I apologize if I do. Eid al-Adha? Adha? How do I say that? Yeah, Eid. I know Eid Ramadan. How do I pronounce the second Eid? Adla? I believe that's always in the summer. It's been in the next couple of years. It's during the summer. Yeah. Yeah, so for the next 2 years, it's going to be during the month of July and August. Eid Ramadan usually occurs in the spring, correct? Normally. And Diwali normally occurs in the fall. So yeah, it's not always going to fall on a weekend and so forth. But in this particular case, for the 1920 school year, it does.
Okay. So let's take Edison, for just argument's sake. Edison acknowledges all three?
Yes.
And what did they take away to fit those three in?
Piscataway. Oh, they do that, and they do others too.
What did they take away that we have that we'd have to remove?
I don't think it's a matter of taking away. I just think it's a matter of adding days. To your calendar.
Got you.
For instance, when we went ahead and added the day for it's going to be for the 2021 calendar, we didn't take anything away. We just added the day.
Okay.
So it does increase your school year potentially by 1 day.
Gotcha.
And for 21-22, it actually coincides with the NJEA convention, so schools would be closed anyway. The May 1 would be a Wednesday. So it varies. It looks like...
Oh, it's a Sunday.
It's a Sunday, yeah. So then 22-23, we have a Monday and a Sunday. And 23-24, it looks like 2 Thursdays at different seasons. So it's very varied.
Yeah.
But it's
But
not
also,
a
it
huge...
also seems very doable.
It's not, that's what we felt.
Yeah.
That's exactly what we felt.
Exactly. So it's something that, it's a practice that we're going to continue as we, develop our calendar.
Okay. And when will you be presenting the 2021 calendar?
Normally, we don't ask you to approve that until the fall. But we can ask you to approve it early if you want. It's done. So we can certainly ask you to approve it if you want at the next meeting.
Right. I sent it out to the board members late this afternoon.
In her student achievement follow-up?
In my follow-up, both the 1920 and the 2021 calendar drafts.
So the 1920 you've already approved, and there did not need to be any alterations to it. But the 2021, we normally have set a pattern in which we ask you to approve that sometime in September. However, it doesn't mean we can't ask you to approve that as early as the next Board of Education meeting if you want.
What's the board's pleasure?
Let's do it. Sooner the better.
It's already done.
Yeah, the parents would enjoy or would
That's what I'm
appreciate
thinking.
the
Yeah,
advance
absolutely.
notice. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. It'll be on the next agenda.
Very good. And just to expand on what Mrs. Rubio said, since I issued a challenge, and I have actually been issuing a challenge, when you look at North Brunswick and their performance versus ours, although we have traditionally trailed North Brunswick, when you look at 2017-18, English language arts proficient, 56% for Sayreville, North Brunswick, 50%. On math, Sayreville, 40.7%, North Brunswick, 39.1%. When you look at grades 6 to 8, just as an example, again, on English there, we trail a little bit, 54.8 versus 56.6. On math, however, we exceed, 39.4 versus 38.4. At the high school level, Sayreville, 50.6% proficient in English versus 46.6%. So we've got some nice gains that we've made against North Brunswick, which I always consider to be a
very comparable district to ours.
And their tax levy is $16 million more than ours.
Exactly. And they've got, as we talked about at the last meeting, a whole lot more ASI instruction. So it's a credit to our staff and to our administrators.
Absolutely, and our students.
And our students. All right, thank you, Mrs. Rubio. Any other committees wish to report?
Quick finance one if you want. Just a couple items. Our 2017 van arrived 2 years late, so we got that.
We got a 19, right?
Is there a hint of sarcasm in your voice there, Mr. Esposito?
Not at all.
Bad news, our track quote.
Oh, that was the good news?
Yeah, that was the good news. It goes downhill from here, I assure you. Our track quote, which was $450,000 for the track, and I believe $50,000 for professional fees. Did I have that written down correctly?
That's what we had in the budget.
Originally, right, we budgeted that. It looks like it's going to be about $525,000 for the track. So, plus the fees. So we do have that money. We're going to take it out of, I believe we're going to try to take it out of capital reserve. Is that what we're doing?
Yeah, and we've just gotten preliminary quotes at this point, so we don't
Right.
have anything finalized, but that
Right, but it looks like we're going to go above
Yes.
the budgeted amount.
We're planning to take the difference out of Mr. Coleman's salary.
Okay. Both servers at the high school have been completed. Everything's up and running well. And two things. I could talk about the check from Horizon, I guess. I don't know if anybody talked about that. No? Okay. We're going to be getting a check back from Horizon at some point. I didn't ask the dollar amount. We'll figure that out when we see it. We'll know it. And what the hell is my last one? Sorry, guys.
What's the
My
check
notes.
for?
A refund amount we're supposed to get.
For?
Tax,
It's associated
tax
with the new
account
tax
refund,
law, I think,
right.
is what we were
It's a
told.
tax account, so. I think that's it. That's all I got, folks. I'm sorry. I don't know if you want to add anything to, Erin, to what I said.
No. That was it.
Okay.
Did we get the minutes for that meeting?
It
Did
just
you send
happened
them out?
last night.
You sent them last night?
No, we just had the
Finance
meeting.
was
Oh,
last
all
night.
right. Sorry.
Mrs. Bloom?
Yes, New Jersey School Board's Board of Directors.
Yep.
We have 3 items here. I'll do the last one first because it's passed, but January was School Board Recognition Month, so I recognize all of you, I think. The other item is the nominating committee for officers for New Jersey school boards. The committee had a training session. They will be interviewing candidates, and the nominating committee will be presenting the candidates for election at the association's delegate assembly on May 18th. The other item is the association's management system, which is being upgraded, and it will reduce the need for manual input, freeing up staff time and ensuring faster and more accurate data tracking. The association's current system is being phased out. And that's it for school boards.
Any other committee reports? Just 2 items. First of all, to clarify on the check from Horizon, we are getting in touch with Horizon to find out exactly what that check was for. All it said is it was related to the tax refund or Tax Act. So we're trying to figure out exactly what it's for, but assuming it is related to medical premiums, we will check with our attorney. If we're required to negotiate it, we will negotiate it. If we're not required to negotiate it, we will simply apportion it back in some fashion between the employees and the board in the appropriate method in which contributions were made. The other item that I wanted to report on with regard to New Jersey school boards is I spoke to Mike Vrancic, who is our director of GR. The board is already available for this. The board is already aware of this. It's more for the public. I asked him with the referendum that was passed on the ballot in November regarding funding for security improvements as well as a whole host of other things, how does a district like Sayreville go about getting that money? And what he indicated is he's been in touch with the Department of Education, and when something like that is passed, the state only can issue bonds 2 times a year, once in the spring and once in the fall, right around Thanksgiving time. Given the fact that this thing was just passed in November, and to issue bonds, you need to develop bond prospectuses, et cetera, and that takes some time, it is highly unlikely that it will be part of the bond issuance in the spring. Most likely it will be part of the bond issuance in the fall.
They cannot do anything in terms of doling out any of that money to anyone until the money actually exists, which means we're waiting until at least November. He doesn't expect there'll be any type of applications or anything available at all for boards to apply until sometime at the earliest during the summer. And he has no idea what that process is going to look like. But that's the latest and greatest regarding the bond that we approved on the general ballot in November. Other questions, or any other committees meet? Okay, hearing none. Any other items for new business or old business or board discussion? All right,
I would just like to take the opportunity to thank again Ms. Howell, Mr. Nasser, and Mr. Glock-Malloy for outstanding presentations.
Absolutely. I was worried you're going to bring up another item, but that was totally appropriate. I'll open it up to public for any item concerning the district. Okay, hearing none, we'll close public, and I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I have a motion by Mrs. Bloom. Do I have a second? By Mrs. Rubio. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried.
Boom. James.